At 80, you stop watching races for the speed, you start watching them for the silences. The moments when a driver chooses not to push. I won at Long Beach in 1983. I started 22nd on the grid, 25 cars ahead of me. I beat them all, including my teammate Niki Lauda, not because I was the fastest, because I was the one not making mistakes while everyone else was. I learned that early. Finishing matters more than leading. Most races aren't won, they're survived. So when people ask me who the greatest driver of all time is, I don't think about lap times, I think about who controlled the things you couldn't see on television. 5 names come to mind, 4 you'll recognize, and 1 who stands alone. Niki was my teammate at McLaren in 1982 and 1983. I sat next to him in debriefs. I watched him talk to the engineers, and I saw him drive a car like a man reading a book he had written himself. You probably know the story. Nürburgring, August 1st, 1976. Lap 2. His Ferrari caught fire. Bandages, last rites, eyelids gone, half an ear missing. What people forget is what happened 42 days later. Italian Grand Prix, Monza. Niki walked into the paddock with his face still wrapped, blood seeping through the helmet padding. He climbed into the car. He finished 4th. Now here is what I want you to understand. Most drivers, after a fire like that, would have come back and either driven scared or driven angry. Niki did neither. He drove the way he always drove. Inside the car's limit. Never 1 inch beyond it. He used to say something I never forgot. The trick is not to drive faster than you think. It is to think faster than you drive. That was Lauda. Every gear shift, every corner, every lap, he was reading the car, the tire temperatures, the brake balance, the fuel load. He didn't fight the machine. He had a conversation with it. Niki didn't beat the car. He understood the car so deeply that beating it became unnecessary. That is a different kind of greatness. Prost took my seat at McLaren at the end of 1983. I'm not going to lie to you. It stung. I had won a race that year. He hadn't. But Ron Dennis signed him for less money than I was asking. And that was that. Here's the thing. Watching him race the next few seasons taught me something I couldn't unlearn. Adelaide, 1986. The final round of the championship, 3 drivers could still win the title. Mansell, Piquet, and Prost. Williams had the faster car all season. Prost was the underdog going in. Then Mansell's tyre exploded on lap 64. Williams panicked and pulled Piquet in for a precautionary stop. The race opened up, but Prost had his own problem. Earlier in the race, he had run out of fuel. He thought his championship was over. Somehow, the calculations came good. He had just enough to finish. He won the race. He won the championship. And he did it without ever forcing the issue. That was Alain. They called him the professor for a reason. He used to say his goal was never to be the fastest in any single lap. It was to be the most efficient across 70 of them. He wasn't racing the cars around him, he was racing the clock, and the clock always lost. Lauda read the machine, Prost read time itself. I commentated Donington 1993 from the booth. I have never said this on air, but for 30 seconds of that opening lap, I forgot I was supposed to be talking. Let me set the scene. European Grand Prix, April. Cold rain falling on a damp track. Ayrton qualified 4th in a McLaren that was, on a dry day, a full second slower than the Williams cars ahead of him. Lights out, Schumacher squeezed him toward the pit wall, Senna dropped to 5th. Then it happened. Turn 3 he passed Schumacher. The Craner curves he passed Wendlinger. McLean's corner he took Damon Hill. And at the Melbourne hairpin, the very last corner of the lap, he pulled alongside Alain Prost on the brakes and took the lead 5th to 1st in 1 lap in the rain against the fastest cars on the grid. By the end of the race, he had lapped everyone except Hill. The man who finished 3rd, Prost, was a full lap behind. Ayrton said something once that I think explains him better than any race ever could. He said, you think you have a limit. You go for the limit. You touch it. And then something happens, and suddenly you can go a little bit further. Lauda respected the limit. Prost calculated around the limit. Senna negotiated with it. That is the difference. And that is why nobody who watched him will ever forget what they saw. James was a friend. He wasn't my teammate. People get that wrong sometimes. But we shared a paddock, a country, and a generation. And I never met anyone who burned hotter than he did. Let me tell you about Fuji, 1976. The final race of the season. Niki Lauda came in leading the championship by 3 points. The track was flooded, fog rolling down from the mountain, visibility almost zero. On lap 2, Niki pulled into the pits, unbuckled his belts, and walked away. He said his life was worth more than a title. Most people forget that this race was the same year as his Nürburgring fire. He had every right to stop. And he did. James needed at least third place to win the championship. He led most of the race. Then his tyre deflated near the end. He came into the pits, dropped to fifth, and had to fight his way back. With a few laps left, he passed 2 cars on a track he could barely see and crossed the line in third place. He won the championship by 1 point. James told me once that some drivers race against the others. He said he raced against the part of himself that wanted to give up. That was his secret. He didn't care about losing the way the rest of us did. That isn't a flaw. That is a weapon. I called Michael's races for Eurosport from 1992 until 1996. By the end, I wasn't really commentating anymore. I was just describing what he had already decided to do. Let me tell you about one race. Spanish Grand Prix, 1996, Barcelona. His first season at Ferrari. The car was, in his teammate Eddie Irvine's own words, a piece of junk. The Williams cars were a full second per lap faster on a dry track. Michael qualified third, but everyone in the paddock knew the race was going to be a Williams 1-2. Then it rained, hard. At the start, his clutch failed. He dropped from third to seventh in the first corner. By every conventional measure, his race was over. What happened next is something I have never seen before or since. He started passing people, not aggressively, methodically, lap by lap, corner by corner. Damon Hill, the championship leader, spun 3 times and crashed into the pit wall. Schumacher just kept driving. He won the race by 45 seconds. His fastest lap was 2.2 seconds quicker than anyone else on the grid. Read that again. In a race lasting almost 2 hours, in torrential rain, in a car that was a second slower than the leaders, he found 2 extra seconds per lap that nobody else could find. And here is what made him different from the other 4. Lauda understood the car. Michael understood the entire team. Prost orchestrated the pace. Michael created the pace. Senna extracted from chaos. Michael turned chaos into a system. Hunt burned with emotion. Michael removed emotion from the equation entirely. Most drivers reacted to the race. Schumacher decided what the race was going to be before the lights even went out. That is why he stands alone. I have spent 50 years in this sport as a driver, as a teammate, as a commentator. I have sat in the same garage as Niki Lauda. I have raced against James Hunt. I have watched Senna walk on water at Donington. I have called Schumacher's victories from the booth. And I have seen 5 different shapes of greatness. Lauda read the machine. Every bolt, every tire, every drop of fuel. He had a conversation with the car that nobody else was having. Prost read time itself. 70 laps unfolded in his head before the lights even went out. Senna read chaos. Where others saw rain and fear, he saw an opening. Hunt read himself. He won by defeating the part of him that wanted to give up. And Schumacher read everything. The car, the team, the strategy, the weather, the rivals. He didn't just drive the race, he authored it. I am not here to rank ghosts. Each of these men won in a way the others couldn't. But if you ask me, at 80 years old, who controlled the race before lights out, before qualifying, before the season even began, there is only one name, and he never needed me to say it out loud.